Imagine waking up to the news that suggests the long-awaited rapture may be upon us. That's exactly what's happening right now in Israel, where reports of an unprecedented sign have sparked panic and uncertainty. People are scrambling for answers, trying to make sense of this extraordinary event. So, let's dive into this video today to know more about this shocking development and what it could mean for believers around the world. The story of Israel is like a tale written in ancient books. It starts with Abraham, a big name in religions like Judaism and Islam. He's called the father of these faiths because of his sons Isaac and Ishmael. His descendants went through tough times like slavery in Egypt before finally settling in Canaan, which is now known as Israel. The name Israel comes from Abraham's grandson Jacob. Throughout its history, Israel has been a holy place for people who believe in one God. Many civilizations and empires have valued this land, each worshiping the same God. It's like a treasure chest full of stories from different cultures. Around 1000 BC, the Israelite tribes came together under kings like Saul, David, and Solomon. Solomon built the first temple on a special spot called the Temple Mount, showing God's promise to the Jewish people. But things didn't stay peaceful forever. The Assyrians and Babylonians came and conquered parts of Israel, even destroying the temple. Later on, the Persians helped the Jews rebuild it. Fast forward to the 1st century, Christianity started with Jesus in Israel. Unfortunately, the Romans destroyed the temple during a war in 70 CE. These events shaped the Jewish people's identity and influenced history worldwide. In the 1920s and 1930s, many Jews moved to Palestine to escape anti-Semitism in Europe. This immigration changed the area, with Jews starting new settlements. However, this caused tension with Arab communities who worried about losing their land. This led to violent conflicts between Jews and Arabs, each wanting different things for the region. The devotion of Israelites. The Israelites were distinctive for their profound devotion, not expressed through grand buildings, but in worship of the singular God. The enduring impact of their beliefs is encapsulated in the Hebrew Bible, particularly the first 5 books, which are collectively known as the Torah. These texts narrate the divine call to Abraham, instructing him to embark on a transformative journey towards the promised land of Canaan. The divine plan was passed on to Abraham's son, Isaac, and later to Jacob, who was given the name Israel, giving rise to the tribes of Israel. The Israelites' stay in Egypt, marked by centuries of servitude, reached its culmination in their liberation under the leadership of Moses. Guided by Moses, they approached the conquest of the Promised Land, Canaan, under the leadership of Joshua. The biblical narrative vividly describes Israel's ongoing conflicts with neighboring peoples, particularly emphasizing the formidable adversaries, the Philistines. The renowned figure King David played a pivotal role by conquering Jerusalem and establishing it as the capital of Israel. Following this, King Solomon, David's son, erected the first holy temple in Jerusalem, housing the revered Ark of the Covenant. However, after the death of Solomon in 931 BC, the monarchy underwent a division, creating 2 separate kingdoms, Israel and Judah. This historical split marked a significant turning point in the trajectory of the Israelites, leading to distinct developments in the histories of these 2 kingdoms. The rebirth of Israel and declaration of independence. After World War II, Jewish people were scattered because of the war, losing their connection to Israel, a place very dear to them. But something incredible happened, just like God promised. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion, leader of the Jewish Agency, announced the establishment of the State of Israel. He emphasized the strong bond between the Jewish people and Palestine, acknowledging the challenges they faced, especially during the Holocaust, and thanking the world for its support. Let's go back around 4,000 years ago. Picture the dry landscapes of the Middle East and find the earliest mentions of Jerusalem, called Rusalim, in ancient texts. Throughout history, Jerusalem saw different powers, Canaanites, Jebusites, and Israelites, leaving their mark. Around 1000 BCE, King David took Jerusalem from the Jebusites, making it the capital of the United Kingdom of Israel. Under King Solomon, the city thrived with remarkable buildings, including the First Temple, showing its importance both spiritually and politically. Jerusalem holds immense significance for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. For Jews, it's the holiest city, where they feel God's presence strongly, and the Western Wall is a vital part of the ancient temple. In Christianity, Jerusalem is linked to Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre being a crucial pilgrimage site. In Islam, it's the third holiest city, with Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock as revered places. Throughout history, Jerusalem has been ruled by various empires and civilizations, including Israelites, Romans, Arabs, Crusaders, and Ottomans, each leaving its mark. The city became a coveted prize for conquerors and a hub for cultural exchange. In the book of Ezekiel, there's a powerful prophecy in chapter 36, verse 24. It says, "I will take you out of the nations, gather you from all countries, and bring you back into your land." This means God promised to bring the Jewish people back from all the places they were scattered and make them His people again. Jeremiah in chapter 30 also talked about God comforting His people. God promised to bring them back from captivity and return them to the land given to their ancestors. These prophecies were all about gathering the Jewish people who had been sent away and bringing them back to the land God had promised them. Today, Jerusalem remains divided along religious and political lines. With its holy sites, the Old City is a mosaic of different faiths. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict adds complexity, with both sides claiming it as their capital. The city's status remains contentious in peace talks and international diplomacy. Reconstruction of the Third Temple! Many people are eager to construct the Third Temple in Jerusalem, seeing it as more important than the old ones that were destroyed. Though it's not yet built, it holds huge importance in Judaism, especially for Orthodox Jews who see it as the holiest place to worship. Since 1987, a group called the Temple Movement has been getting ready to build the Third Temple, slowly working towards this goal in the 21st century. While many people in modern Israel and worldwide aren't very religious, Orthodox Jews take this seriously, seeing it as a spiritual duty and keeping non-religious people out of it. They're the ones who brought back the Sanhedrin, a religious group overseeing temple matters, to make sure the temple is built properly. For Orthodox Jews, rebuilding the temple is super important because they believe it will improve the world. They think the world can only improve if the temple is rebuilt. Gershon Salomon, leading the Temple Mount Faithful, is actively trying to get Israel excited about building the temple. The group has protested at the temple site, made a special cornerstone for the Third Temple, and created items for it. According to Solomon, building the Third Temple is needed to make things right for the people in the Bible who lived in the Holy Land. The Sanhedrin, responsible for temple matters, is preparing for temple services by planting a special forest with plants needed for the Third Temple. Speaking for the Sanhedrin, Rabbi Hillel Weiss says the temple was a link between the land and God. Contrary to what many think about sacrifices being about animals and blood, many sacrifices involve plants that grew in Israel. The discovery of an ancient temple beneath Temple Mount. Once, it was believed that there was no temple on the Temple Mount site. However, a surprising discovery changed everything. In 1927, a powerful earthquake damaged the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. To fix it, the Muslim Waqf, led by Grand Mufti Haj Amin al-Husseini, allowed archaeological investigations on the usually restricted Temple Mount area. Robert Hamilton, in the pre-state Israel's mandatory period, teamed up with Muslim clerics for research where the mosque had collapsed. However, Hamilton had limitations in his cooperation and didn't include findings that might upset the Muslim community. Surprisingly, many of his discoveries date back to periods before Muslim rule, like the Second Temple and Byzantine eras. These findings stayed hidden for decades but are now coming to light. Nearly 80 years later, Israeli archaeologists Dr. Gabi Barkai and Zaki Devira revisited Hamilton's hidden findings. They sifted through tons of earth removed from the Temple Mount about 13 years ago, revealing countless small archaeological items that tell us about Jerusalem's history. Among the discoveries was a Jewish mikveh, a ritual purification pool from the Second Temple era, likely used by Jews before entering the temple grounds. Many small items from the First and Second Temple periods were also found. Hamilton's findings included remains of a Byzantine mosaic beneath the damaged mosque's floor. De Vera found mosaic stones, column fragments, and evidence of a Byzantine-era church, 324-638 CE, in the earth from the Temple Mount. These findings challenge previous beliefs, suggesting that the Temple Mount wasn't empty during the Byzantine era but likely had structures, perhaps even churches at that time. Arrival of red heifers. Recently, 5 special red heifers from a Texas ranch arrived in Israel, creating a buzz, especially for those believing in a prophecy about building the Third Temple in Jerusalem. If they stay completely red and flawless, these less-than-a-year-old heifers can be used to make ashes, which is crucial in Jewish law to purify those near a dead body, especially important for future temple priests. After arriving, these unique heifers went to Haifa for a quarantine of at least 7 days, following Israel Veterinary Authority rules. Later, they'll be moved to 2 different places in Israel, with one eventually open to the public. They'll be cared for until they are 3 years old, at which point they can be sacrificed, and their ashes made according to Jewish law. Bona Israel, an organization of Jews and Christians, played a big role in finding and bringing these heifers to Israel. Byron Stinson, a Texas rancher working with the organization, raised these special cattle. The heifers had a special welcome ceremony at Ben Gurion Airport, attended by Temple Institute officials and other important people. The red heifer is significant in the Bible. Its ashes purified the Israelites, as mentioned in Numbers 19. Many see the appearance of a red heifer today as a sign that the Third Temple will be built and Christ will return. According to rabbinical tradition, 9 red heifers were sacrificed since Moses' time, but none after the Second Temple's destruction. Rabbi Maimonides taught that the Messiah himself would sacrifice the 10th red heifer. The recent arrival of these 5 perfect red heifers from Texas to Israel is seen by many as the fulfillment of prophecy and a significant step toward building a new temple. The rules for a red heifer, as in the Mosaic Law, are strict: without defect or blemish, and never worn a yoke, Numbers 19:2. The process of slaughtering a red heifer is explained in Numbers 19:1-10. And it involves purification from sin using the red heifer's ashes. These instructions about the red heifer foreshadowed the sacrifice of Christ for the forgiveness of sins. Like the red heifer, Jesus was without blemish. Just as the red heifer was sacrificed outside the camp, Jesus was crucified outside Jerusalem. The red heifer's ashes cleansing people from death contamination parallel Christ's sacrifice, saving us from the penalty and corruption of sin and death. Further, there was the rediscovery of the ancient Pool of Siloam. The Pool of Siloam, measuring 53 feet long, 18 feet wide, and 19 feet deep, was a significant discovery. Crafted with skill using natural rocks, it sadly got destroyed during Babylon's attack on Jerusalem and the Second Temple. However, there's good news. It was rebuilt during Nehemiah's time and expanded under Herod the Great's rule. This pool held special importance as a place where poor and sick people sought healing, especially during the Feast of Tabernacles, celebrating the Israelites' freedom from Egypt. The Festival of Booths, or Sukkot, is a major event in Judaism, commemorating the Israelites' freedom and survival in the desert. People build temporary sukkahs, similar to their ancestors' shelters, expressing gratitude to God and seeking rain. Sukkot is celebrated in Jewish communities worldwide. During Sukkot, a priest would draw water from the Pool of Siloam in a golden pitcher, singing psalms joyfully. He then poured the water on the altar's west side, a ritual tied to Isaiah 12:3. Isaiah 12:3 states, "With joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation." Pouring water during Sukkot symbolized drawing joyful water from the wells of salvation. It was a happy ceremony during the Festival of Booths, with the Pool of Siloam playing a crucial role. Despite the original pool's destruction, its rebuilding allowed people to continue celebrating and finding joy in their traditions. After the rebuilding of a Pool of Siloam, a water libation ceremony took place. On October 12th, a special ceremony called the water libation took place, resembling an ancient temple tradition. Led by special priests, Kohanim, and Levites, with musical instruments, they followed the old paths from the old city of Jerusalem to Shiloh, also known as Siloam Springs. The parade included chanting, dancing, and silver trumpets. With a golden jug filled with water from the Shiloh pool, they set up a model altar and tools on the mountain summit, continuing ancient temple traditions. The ceremony concluded with the rare priestly blessing and the Hakel ceremony, occurring once every 7 years. While the Torah doesn't explicitly mention the water ceremony, people consider it part of Moses' oral teachings, celebrating like a happy holiday. This ceremony, lasting 15 hours in the Old Temple, continued with celebrations all night until the next morning's temple service. Participants from worldwide came for Sukkot celebrations, making it a universal day of worship. In the last 6 days of Sukkot, a water ceremony and wine pouring took place during the morning service. Priests filled a flask with spring water, journeying from the temple to the Shiloh spring at the base of Mount Moriah. 2 priests poured wine and water into special holes for the ceremony on the stone altar in the temple's courtyard. The Shiloh pool, also known as Shalom in English and Silwan in Arabic, is of biblical importance and is believable and revived vividly after the building of the Third Temple. Pilgrims once started their journey to Jerusalem at this pool for biblical feasts, cleansing themselves before presenting sacrifices in the inner court of the Temple Mount. Discovered in 2004, ongoing exploration reveals its historical significance. According to the Babylonian Talmud, the year after the Shemitah, a special year, is considered auspicious for the Messiah's arrival. The book of Amos prophecy suggests the return of the tribe of Israel from other nations. The Talmud discusses challenges before the Messiah comes, emphasizing the uncertain need for another physical temple. Instead, building a spiritual temple involves living a devoted life to God and preparing for potential end-time challenges. Recent end-time prophecy fulfilled by the Chinese president. Chinese President Xi Jinping's recent statements have drawn global attention due to their extreme rhetoric, including metaphors and biblical references. Notably, Xi invoked imagery resembling Revelation 16:12-13, which talks about the drying up of the Euphrates River and the emergence of impure spirits resembling frogs, evoking apocalyptic connotations. This shift in language aligns with China's changing foreign policy and military posture. Traditionally prioritizing economic development and diplomacy, China has recently taken a more assertive stance globally. Instances include threatening Australia, issuing warnings about Taiwan, and even threatening to shoot down a U.S. representative's aircraft visiting Taiwan. Xi's directives to prepare for stormy seas highlight the perceived gravity of upcoming challenges, prompting speculation about China's intentions. These statements coincide with directives aimed at strengthening China's national security system and capabilities. Xi emphasizes the need for an effective risk surveillance and early warning system, enhanced national security education, and improved data and artificial intelligence security management. Xi's directives also emphasize China's military capabilities, which include the world's largest army. This has led to interpretations and speculations about the role of China's military in potential future conflicts. The reference to Revelation 16 has raised concerns about this. This biblical passage depicts a climactic battle, and some draw parallels between the armies described in Revelation and China's modern armed forces. Exploring the book of Revelation's prophetic insights, particularly Revelation 9:13-16, reveals details about a massive 200 million strong army emerging from the east. The writings of the Apostle John provide intriguing imagery of a historic battlefield involving an unprecedented number of soldiers. While caution is advised against over-interpreting these statements, they indicate a growing sense of urgency within China's leadership amidst complex challenges. The combination of extreme rhetoric, biblical references, and directives for national security and military preparedness underscores the evolving landscape of China's foreign policy. So what do you think of the rapture sign in Israel? Comment below and subscribe for more.